Hello, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hey there, guys. Hope you guys are all doing well. I was slightly distracted there between Cynthi's phone and the music.
Sorry. Sorry, you guys. I know I'm not very good at opening, but wasn't that great? That was Mike. He's playing with that metal drum. I just love it. It's like a wind chime, but you can choose the notes you want to play. It's just so pretty.
It is, and it's something that could bring us into a meditative state, and that is the key to so many mysteries. That's what we're going to be talking about there. So good to see you guys, and we got Chris Marr in the house, Knowledge 2020, Energies 1111, Karma Doc, Calvin High Vibe, Mary Davidson, Wendy Barnes, and we also have Miss Nicole.
Ah, wonderful. And then we have... who is this? Humble Bob. Hi, Humble Bob. And Gary and Conscious Creators. Ah, Miss Tina MacArthur. Great to see you. Modern Refugee. Surviving life after it falls apart. Hello to you too. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, Miss Energies and Queen Star Sophia. It's great. Everybody's just coming right in.
Yeah, we got Gary Hines too. Good to see you as well, brother. Yeah, that was the first Conscious Creators, the first time Cindy did open. That was her opening. And
first time for everything, I guess.
always the first time. Penny Love Dance in the house. John Lamb, Cliff, good to see you, brother. Scott Moore, good to see you as well. So we're going to talk about some cool, fun things, like amazing superpowers that can be attained through meditation and devotion as well. It's amazing, really, what we can do, and we've been kind of, they've thrown the wool over our eyes in some ways. With the whole system that we're in, for one thing, we're always occupied with just running on the wheel. For the most part, I mean, maybe not so much anymore with everything going on in some people's lives. With the whole lockdown that we've had and everything, it's really obviously disrupted a lot of people's lives, but in some cases for the better, where it's given people an opportunity to go within, change things. And there's been surveys done that show that the majority of people don't want to go back to running on the wheel. You know, they don't want to go back to the same old stuff.
Grizz says, I said roar and I got none back. Okay, I'm so sorry, Grizz. Okay, you ready? Watch your ears, you guys. I always worry about your ears. Watch your ears. Roar! I know I'm getting better.
That's it. Well, she just had a tough workout. So, it's one of those, I can't say, I don't know. She raised a little testosterone there.
Hormones,
yeah, a little testosterone hormone boost.
Like that. Yeah.
Diana's in the house. Good to see you as well. And good to see you, Grizz. Always, brother. Spectral vibes, blessings. So that was a fun opening. And, we're going to talk about some really, really fun stuff. I mean, there's some things that are obvious when it comes to, if you said to somebody, maybe you want to take up yoga, maybe you want to take up Tai Chi, QiGong, meditation. The first thing that comes to mind is probably what? Stress reduction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We need that in our lives. And, for me, actually, my body type and blood type, it's better for me to settle my brain to do like yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, than it is to exercise when, I love a really good, strong workout, but I guess we're all different.
You scared Mary Davidson's dogs.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mary. Give him a hug for me.
Elena over in Waynesville. Hope everything is good over there as well. So much fun we've had over in Waynesville. It's just such a cute little town. It is one of my favorite small towns. As I've shared with you, it's like if I had to pick some of my favorite places, Charleston would come to mind, so would Santa Fe. And as far as like just adorable, cute little places to, just soak in the vibes, I love Waynesville.
Yeah, and Karma Doc is asking a really good question. What blood types need what? And I'm like, what am I? A positive? I'm pretty common. My blood type's pretty common. Yeah. That's a good question. And I'm like a natural vegetarian because I can acid will raise in my system pretty easily. Now I didn't know that And when I grew up, we did grow up on like meat and potatoes. Very much a meat and potatoes girl growing up. But my system would have operated a lot better and probably would have aged slower had I stayed on the vegetables for my blood type.
You know, some people don't believe too much in blood type really contributing differences to what we need to ingest and also how we should take care of our bodies exercise-wise. But, you know, I think there is something to it, most definitely. And I've had a couple of naturopaths in my life that really agreed, and that was a foundational thing for them. That was like one of the very first questions was, what's your blood type? And, you know, this right here, this PDF, I won't spend too much time on it because I had a whole bunch of other stuff that we were going to talk about. But it'll give you not only eat right for your 4 types, for your type, but also your exercises that would be good for you. Because, you know, some people do well with high intensity and other people don't. You know, and if we're just touching on the diet, you know, blood type O is your carnivore. Type A is your natural vegetarian, or at least more plant-based. B is a mix, as is AB. My mom was the very rarest AB negative, and I'm B negative, so I'm the second most rare. Most people are either, you know, O positive or A positive as far as the vast majority, but there are differences, and so I'll link this in there. But so for type A, like it says, like we're talking about, Tai Chi.
And Jeff says, anyone know how to find your blood type? There's these cards you can get on Amazon for about $6 or $7. Maybe it's $8, but it's called, was it Alder card?
I think so.
Yeah. Alder card, I believe. And I got it online, and the most important thing is, you know, you really want to read the instructions because it's like $8. And if you make Eldon card, yeah, if you make a mistake, you know, you got to get another one. So, and their directions are basic, and you can even go on YouTube and they show you how to do it. It was really easy for me. So yeah, that's how you can check your blood type. I thought I had to go through my doctor and all of these things. No, you can just get a Eldon card.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Cliff. Thank you, Cliff. Lots of love and appreciation to you too.
Thanks, brother. We appreciate it. So yeah, Eldon card, that's what you would want to get to check out your blood type. And, you know, everybody is very different. And, you know, there's a combination of factors, you know, obviously to take in. But yeah, exercise by blood type is an interesting subject, and I'll make sure I keep that in there with the other links. There's a lot of interesting links this time to go through. So when we're talking about things like, you know, the basics, how effective certain things are for like stress reduction, blood flow, circulation. We were talking to one of our more recent clients. We've seen him a couple times now, and so he's got some health issues he's addressing right now. And you know, us males, and I was there too. What do we like to do? You know, I'm going to start working out again. Okay, well, get on the bench press and do some curls and things like that. But as time goes on, you know, you realize the value of things like stretching. You know, stretching is huge, and you want to do things that keep the fluid in the joints and maintain that circulation and posture. And we were just doing some of our favorite type of workout, which is basically I have a boxing timer. We do rounds, and it's fun to keep them short and fast-paced. So it's really like constantly changing, constantly flowing. So if we do 60 rounds of 30 seconds with just 5 seconds in between, which gives us enough time to, you know, put down the dumbbells and to go into a side plank, and then, you know, stand back up, and then go ahead and do like a certain combo, like a jab cross and a rear leg roundhouse kick. And that's how we like to train, and it's fast-paced. And so, you know, our workout today took about 50 minutes total. But, you know, the whole time your heart rate's up, and you're training your muscles, and you're stretching and doing yoga. Like I always incorporate, you know, at least 5 or 6 different yoga postures. in our workout as well. And it just makes you feel damn good. It's such a complete workout that way. In the old days, I used to care about how big my chest was or how much I could bench press and things like that. But as we get older, we realize, hey, you just want to function properly. You want to be able to do things you did as a kid. And so, at the end of our workout, we were stretching, and I'm like, wow, I could pretty much just about get with my legs straight out. I could almost lie my chest flat back down on my legs again. And I'm getting there, so my flexibility is really increasing. No problem kicking head level at all. And, pretty powerfully, because it's really more about flexibility. Flexibility is so key, and it's so underrated. And I'm getting off on a tangent here. But, it's just another thing that I'm passionate about. So, I love working out. I love getting the blood pumping, but I also love feeling the muscles work. And at the same time, I love incorporating the yoga in there because it teaches us how to breathe into the body and also how to really release tension, as well as maintain flexibility and balance. Balance is critical as you get older. And I've been a retirement community manager, and I've put together exercise programs for seniors and stuff as well. And so I know how important that is. T. Luke says, I could see my toes. There you go. That's awesome. So getting back to what we were talking about, obviously these things are going to help back pain. And studies show, that definitely is the case. A majority of, there was a study done, the majority of the 32 reviewed articles, different studies showing movement-based mind-body interventions to be effective for treatment of low back pain, and reported positive outcomes such as reduction in pain or psychological distress, depression and anxiety, reduction in pain-related disability, and also improved functional ability. Many, they've done so many studies on this, and this one had 3,484 participants. That's pretty good. And that's the obvious thing. The other thing we've seen is studies show group meditation lowers crime, suicide, and death rates in surrounding areas. The areas even not exactly where they're doing it. It's like an energy wave of beautiful energy coming out from where they're doing the group meditations and just surrounding everything and changing everything. So we know through quantum physics, everything is interconnected. And in the Western mystery traditions, this is something that, could be looked at in olden days as witchcraft. And you might have been burned at the stake if you had some of these abilities that we're going to talk about. You probably would have been. And there's a reason for that, because that would have taken the power away from the power structure. It would have changed the whole paradigm. It would have changed the whole way we look at things. And it's time to do that now, because it's time to change the system that needs to go big time. And we need to realize what we can do.
Mm-hmm. We can do a lot, even if you're a busy mom and you have a busy house, a chaotic house. It's my belief that if you can find, starting out with meditating like 1 minute at a time, move it to 5, move it to 10, move it to 15. I strongly believe, because it helped me, that your house will actually run a little bit smoother just from your calm energy. Things seem to fall together a little bit better. You're a little more congruent. Aw. Thank you, Black Slacks. What does it matter how long you live? I think for everybody, that's like a personal thing. It matters to me because I want to live and enjoy life.
And it's the quality of your life.
Yeah.
So, if you're suffering and every day it's just tough to get around, and thank you for your support, it could feel different than if you feel great. If you simply roll out of bed and you have energy and you feel good and nothing really hurts. So much of our disease, our dis-ease, is all about our diet. It's about what we take in our body. It's not even just the diet. It's mental too. A huge part of it is what we take in into us, whether that is physical, like food and water, and if we're eating the simple sugars and all the processed stuff with yellow dye number 5, and all the GMO foods and all the just crappy sugars that are out there, like high fructose corn syrup. We have, people that are dear to us in our lives that don't seem to want to change. No matter how much we talk to them and, wish that they would change, and even maybe sometimes do things like throwing some of these cookies out in the garbage, which, we won't tell that to certain people in the family. But, it's just like, you wonder why you ache. Well, it's inflammation. You get the inflammatory response. And inflammation is the leading cause of so much pain, ultimately, as well as other things, too. Allergies, for instance. But getting back to this, and so what we're talking about, too, is what you put in your mind. So that's part of why meditation is so beautiful, because it gives us a chance to really connect with ourselves, who we really are. And not enough people do that. Not enough people go well and deep within. And when we do, and we start to recognize that everything is mental, we can really change the world. And the studies show it. So there's been a lot of studies. In 1978, what is known as the Maharishi effect took place when a group of 7,000 individuals over a course of 3 weeks were meditating in hopes of positively affecting the surrounding city. They were literally able to transform the collective energy of the city, which reduced global crime rates, violence, and casualties during the times of their meditation by an average of 16%. So what if, we had 10 times that? People doing it, 70,000, 700,000. What if our society was structured such that everybody just about meditated on a regular basis? Everybody pretty much practiced yoga, tai chi, qigong, something along those lines. We would transform the society so quick. It would just transform almost overnight. It's amazing what we can do. Now, people who were not even meditating had no idea that the experiment going on were being impacted by this, by such a degree that caused a statistical change in their behavior. Suicide rates and automobile accidents were also reduced with all the variables accounted for. In fact, there was a 72% reduction in terrorist activity during times at which this group was meditating. And there's many other studies too. There was one published in Psychology, Crime and Law, found that crime rate dropped by 13% in Merseyside, Great Britain, during a time when people were meditating. It's just amazing what we can do. So we can see the power structure that we have, the elite that we have, they are putting out their programming into us all the time. Aaron Doherty is a really good guy, and he's actually in Vegas. He was in Sedona last couple of days, and he did a video saying something's not adding up here, something's just not right. And I hadn't ever heard of him getting into political and current events like he did. But, he did go so far as to say there's obviously a group that's controlling the world mindset, but they're losing their grasp. And that's part of this big change that we see. They are losing their grasp.
Mm-hmm. They are. And thank you, Grizz, for your support. And Grizz says, I'm going to share something, Black Slacks. At my lowest point with PTSD, I attempted suicide. Living didn't matter to me, but it was selfish what I put my wife and boys through. Loved ones want you around. They absolutely want you around. And PTSD is something that it's a really big deal. It's nothing to sneeze at. It's very serious and should be treated serious. And meditation can also help our reactive nature when we have the PTSD, when we start going down that rabbit hole of negativity. Sometimes it can be nearly impossible to stop that snowball. But over time, with meditation, my PTSD I've become less reactive, and I think that's really critical. Meditation in these quiet times we gift ourselves is extremely important. Thank you so much, Grizz.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. And we see there was 255,000 less crimes in Merseyside from 1988 to 92 than would have been expected. if they had followed the national crime trend. But because there were people meditating in these large groups, it totally changed the reality of that location. So, why is that? Well, if we look into Hermeticism and ask yourself again, why do we have the form of Christianity that we have, for instance? Because there was Gnosticism, which comes right out and just talks all about everything is mental, just like we get out of the Hermetic principles here. It's recognized in Buddhism, it's recognized in Hinduism, it's recognized in the Taoist philosophy as well. It's recognized in so many traditions. And so the form of Christianity that was so harshly oppressed by the Catholic Church were the Gnostics. And Hermeticism talks all about this. The Kybalion is a great book to start with for many people if you haven't read it yet. The principle of mentalism. So these are 7 Hermetic principles for self-mastery. And number 1 is the all is mind. The universe is mental. And the greatest minds of our time, such as Tesla, Max Planck, Einstein, they've all said this. It's all about the fact that consciousness is fundamental. Consciousness comes first. Consciousness is not in your brain. The brain is just basically the operating unit, the CPU for the physical body, basically. But it's not the consciousness itself. We wear the body just like we wear clothes, and that goes back to the Bhagavad Gita. And, that's been passed on time and time again in many traditions, perhaps not focused on as much in certain traditions, mainstream, but it is most definitely there. As we look at, a nebula that could look very much like an eye, right? The universe is mental, and that's the first principle. All is mind, ultimately. The universe itself, at an underlying foundational level, is mental. So all phenomena, life, matter, energy, everything, it's all thought. It's thought. And so, Moses at the burning bush. Who do I say sent me? I am. It's just self-realization. Wow, I am. Just meditate on that for a while. I am. There is a meditation that goes, I am not the mind. I am not the body. I am not the mind. Yes. I am not the body. I am not even the mind. Meaning the brain.
Yes, I am not the body, not even the mind. And you can do that meditation with a certain breath, and it can actually remove like physical pain from your body. Sorry. If you do it a certain way, and I learned that through Sadhguru, it's really, really cool. It actually did help me.
Yeah, there's different breathing patterns that can help you. So you could, what I find with myself too, and this is something that I've always done with my meditation, which, since Cindy and I, we combine our work sometimes. So we do our mantras and we do our still meditation, but I gauge her, and often I could tell when she's in a trance because she moves a certain way. And then I'll ask if we, have a connection. And so I haven't gone as deep as I used to, which I should get back into it. And I plan on it. But I would slow my breathing down more and more and more and more to where it's probably less than a breath a second. It's a real slow pace. And that changes the brain waves. It really does. It shifts everything. So the principle of correspondence is next. As above, so below. And, some people are terrified when you say that. It scares them. But it's just the way things are. It's the programming of the matrix that we're in. As above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. As without, so within. And we see that. Look at the fractal nature of the universe, for instance. And just even looking at the body, because the physical body is the innermost layer, and it's like the Russian dolls, as I've said many times. There's other layers to the body layered on out, and who knows where it ends. Barbara Brennan could see either 14 or 15 layers to the aura. The principle of vibration, nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. And again, you can't create or destroy energy. It just changes form. And we see these same patterns in nature time and time again. And Tesla said, if you want to talk about the mysteries, of the universe, think in terms of vibration, frequency, energy. That's really what we're talking about here. And I think the Thunderbirds Project does a lot of great work on so many things, understanding the real science behind things. And it's talking about electric universe theory, the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. And the yin and the yang of the whole thing, because that's what puts everything into motion.
Yeah, there's all of these teachings that I wish to goodness they could be taught from the time we're born. And in some ways, some of the baby toys and stuff. And Black Slex, thank you for your support. And she says, I appreciate that. More interested in the after and not the now. The now is pretty simple compared to the unknown. Thank you for your support. And back to these patterns. Some baby toys do introduce these patterns at a young age. I think the more evolved toys, I don't know if that's the right vocabulary word or not, but some parents are catching on that these patterns are very, very important to introduce quickly. It seems like they bring some sort of a comfort.
Then we have the principle of rhythm. Everything flows in and out. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swings, manifest in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. So there is so much that I have gotten from my lovely wife here. So many nuggets of things that always kind of rang true with me, and then I'll ask her and she'll check. And, it's just a lot of stuff that I don't think we've even really talked about, but it's fascinating stuff. Just like I'll share with you guys that, my mom died about 6 months ago. And I did know when, because I was actually doing standing meditation, and I felt her basically touch my chin. And I know that she always hated me having facial hair, so it was just her way of letting me know. But she's like on the other side, and Cindy can see that she spends most of the time, with my father, because they're very close. I mean, there could never be another woman in my dad's life, and there could never be another man in my mom's life. They were just such a couple, complete dedication to each other. But when she didn't feel good for a while, towards the end. So she was having a great time on the other side. I mean, she was, and she was always the life of the party way, way back. She had more energy than you can imagine. And so, Cindy doesn't really know my mom. She never got to meet her. But she's like, oh yeah, they just go out, they go dancing, and they, it's again, as above, so below. It's like this. It's not necessarily what many people would think. So how have you seen them?
Well, like I see your mom spinning, dancing with your dad, and it's like their vibrations are really high. They're just having a good time. It is such a beautiful, peaceful place where they're at. If you want to call it the other side, I believe they're just on a higher dimension where things are just so much better, and it's not super far off from what we are at now. Like where we're at now, everything is kind of in a state of decay, whereas you go on the other side, everything is in a state of growth. Okay,
and so we had to leave a few tomato plants that we couldn't salvage, that were just like pretty destroyed by the worms that we had told you guys about. But it's still, I'd never like to let anything die. I always try to keep it going. It's just part of me. I always feel bad about giving up on something. But Cindy got that. Explain how plants are on the other side.
they're in a constant state of growth. It's like as soon as the seed sprouts here, it's like a form of decay starts. Even though it's growing, it's still going to be in a place of decay. But when they die, they go to the other side, and they're like sparkly, and they're just constantly alive. So there is no death.
And that's the beauty. There is no death, and so, and on that side, or that dimension, we should say, it's at least in those ways, it's better. It's not deteriorating. It's more of a ever-growing building thing. So we come down to here to learn some heavier lessons about density, because it's all about different density.
It's like when we're here, we get the opportunity to work through things at a different rate that can give us a tremendous amount of growth. But it's not easy. It's facing your demons. It's facing your issues. It's talking yourself through things. It's rewiring your brain, but it's all, if we can keep looking at it as an opportunity and something that's happening for us and not to us, that tends to help keep the vibration high in your heart and in your mind, and then around you as well.
And then we have the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. So whether we want to look things as karma or the law of cause and effect, or, I think we should look at it more like that as opposed to divine judgment. Like when we're talking about judgment, in the Bible, it's written, that after you die, there's judgment. But who really judges? Because source is within us. God is in us. So we just judge ourselves. We judge our actions. And then there is the law of cause and effect, which, depending on how we lived, will determine what happens next. The things we need to work on. The things we didn't get right, that we could have gotten right. And then also all the good things that you did, and that will in turn push you upwards. So as we talked about before, there's many levels to what we would call the astral realm. There are most definitely places that are what we would think of as heavens. And the lower astral we could think of as more like hells. So if we are, and we do, allow ourselves to be controlled by lower vibrational things, which might not always be what you think about it, because we are sold a bill of goods where, to go in service and to die in service to your country is a wonderful thing. Well, if you're over somewhere and you're actually serving just a corporate interest to make some of these bankers more and more wealthy, it's not what it appears to be. You're not really doing a service, I mean, you might have it in your heart that you think that you're doing right, but, so many people, this has caused horrible scarring. And, I've worked on a ton of them. Cindy and I together have worked on a lot of people that have been scarred by these type of events. But this is what the system is designed for, because they keep us in this karmic loop, and they keep us in a lower vibrational loop. Once we understand that we have a choice in the matter, we're not powerless. No matter what they do, we're not powerless. It's all about how we react to things and the energy that we give off. So if we allow ourselves to be controlled by anger, to be controlled by lower emotions, that's not good, because that's going to start to pull us down. As we were talking about, too, there is a separation of the energies that's going to happen. And even now, there are so many people that find that they cannot tolerate certain energies, frequencies. It could be places, like with me. I had to get out of the tri-state area. I couldn't be 30 miles from New York anymore. I just couldn't take the energy. So I moved to a town of 700 in South Carolina, and that helped me tremendously because of the energies. And sometimes it's relationships, as well. Relationships will end. There are things that we will not be able to tolerate as we move forward. It's just part of the way things are, because the energies are separating right now as well, because there are those that are going to end up rising upwards into a higher level of experience, and those that are not going to be able to get over their negative energetic entrapments, whether that's just something as simple as not being able to control your anger, whether it's drugs and substance abuse, which can most definitely pull us into the lower astral realms. We have to overcome our entrapments, and we have to move upward. And getting back to what meditation and yoga and Tai Chi and QiGong can do, is that could really help tremendously keep you in a high point. And mantras are powerful for that as well, because when we vibrate, there's power in the word, right? Because in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And so when we vibrate something like a mantra, even if we don't know what it means, the vibration has power. It changes the cell structure in our body. It changes our mind and everything. So the last principle here at number 7 is the principle of gender. Everything has a gender of sorts. At least, again, this is manifesting too, as we see in the 3D reality. And in so many different philosophies, the thought is that we are source. Source has basically split itself up into an infinite, different array of beings. Every being that there is really source, as a part of source. And source goes out into its creation, and then source comes back in. It's almost like an inhale and an exhale. Just think about the breaths, right? So, source will go out into its creation, and ultimately at some point, we will all end up at some point eventually returning to source. It depends on the individual, how long that journey takes. Millions of lives, billions of lives perhaps. And getting back to the principle, everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. And we see it with Shiva and Shakti. We see it in so many different things as well.
A lot of different things. And when it comes to energy, it is important to control our emotions, because our emotions emit a certain little frequency, and it's like our cells all have a little antenna, and that goes out and talks with the 3D world around us. And the more congruent you are with that 3D world and the antenna that your body's getting information from, like the more you can raise your vibration and make better decisions. But if you're angry or angst and you have traumas that you weren't able to work through, sometimes that can create a little bit of a rift in the energy field. And in meditation and mantras, they can help even that out.
And so it's about optimizing brain functioning. And here you see, this is through transcendental meditation. And you see the word that looks like siddhi, or it's pronounced she, or siddhis. That means basically some of these amazing abilities that come by as a byproduct. And it's taught that you don't go searching. That's not the prime goal. The prime goal is self-realization, union with the divine. But these are a byproduct of things. They're pretty wild things, as we see the picture of the yogis flying there. And a lot of people are going to say right off the bat, Photoshop, and no, that's just an absolute impossibility. But there's a lot of other things that you would think are impossible that have actually been monitored now by scientists, and they say, I don't know how they do it. They don't have any answer to it. I know many people will say, well, maybe I could buy that. We could actually lower crime rates if we're putting the vibes out there, maybe. And I definitely, can see that it could help me, with stress reduction, just shifting from one side of the nervous system to the other. And, because it is about that shift and producing the right hormones. But there's been a lot of research. In Harvard even has done research. There's been a lot more studies, I think, than people realize. And we've talked about monks that have superhuman powers. Harvard researchers revealed just how superhuman they really are, from changing body temperatures to levitating to all other kinds of unimaginable things. Monks are still very well not understood. And Harvard has done some research to explain their superpowers. So they use, obviously, different breathing techniques, different visualization techniques as well. And they get these gifts, you could view them as, and I do think that these gifts are going to be something that become pretty commonplace in the new era to come.
Yeah, I believe that we all already have them. We haven't been taught about them. We haven't been taught how to hone them. But we definitely, if you're a human being, you have these gifts, and we're all a little bit different because I believe we all come from like a different, like DNA line or galactic species, if you want to call it, or human species, and we all have a little bit different gifts, or our strengths are a little bit different in certain areas, but we definitely have them. And I feel like we're coming on this great awakening where we're all realizing, hey, that is my strength, and this is how I use it, and things are not what I was told, and just so many things. So many things have changed, and they are continuing to change.
Yeah, they definitely are. So, there's so many different ways, like the whirling dervishes, which comes out of a Islamic tradition. They spin in circles, and get into these ecstatic trances, spinning in circles. There's a lot of different things. I mean, I've experienced incredible bliss in kirtans, as I've shared with you guys in the past. And just from the energy of maybe 20 or 30 people in a room, all just coming out, pouring this beautiful energy right from the heart center. And whether it's, and what we did a lot was combine different traditions on purpose. So we would have something going like, say, a Hare Krishna, and then have My Sweet Lord in it with, from John Lennon, Beatles, in a different stanza, and change the tempos, and people would be playing all different sorts of instruments, and it just was blissful, amazingly blissful, and so peaceful, at the same time invigorating in a positive effect, and it creates this energetic vortex of loving energy that's just amazing to be around and gets you on a high. One of the things we have to overcome is our separation, and that is what they're trying so hard to do right now in every way, shape, and form, even with the masks going on. It's all about separating us. But getting back to this, the Buddhist monks, for example, are known for their extraordinary powers, but are expected to not be distracted by them because they're just a byproduct. So as we see this quote, with this enlightenment, he was believed to possess all manner of supernormal powers, including full knowledge of each of his own past lives. Think about the ability to pull from your past life. Think about what you know now that you didn't know maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Can you imagine if you could pull like 3,000 years of knowledge, maybe 10,000 years of knowledge, maybe a million years of knowledge right into your mind right now? Can you imagine what a powerful being you could be?
You can. And one little thing that I learned on my journey is, like, how do you know what you were in a past life? And one little thing you can do is, as you read, as you study, as you learn, as you grow, when something perks your interest, when something just feels right to you, that's more of an indicator that you're remembering something. That could be part of your past life, which is something really, really beautiful. And that's how we learn. It's because we've already seen that, done that. It feels familiar, and we can grow on that even more.
I've gotten glimpses from what I believe are 5 different past lives, and just glimpses, just certain things like scenes, scenery. It's just fascinating, like in one of them, which I take to be, I'm feeling it was probably Gaul, and I feel that the Romans came and killed everybody in my town, and I was just like laying on the ground next to my sister, bleeding out and looking at the blue sky. But also I remember clearly being in Nepal, close to Tibet, and being in a cave and looking out over the plain so clearly. I could see that clear as day. And that's one of the reasons why, for me, it just is so easy, I think, to get into the meditation and the QiGong. I've always just felt like it's just something I know. And I've shared with you, one of my Reiki master teachers, early on when she was giving me an attunement, said, "Oh, you've done all this before. It's just a matter of you remembering who you really are." She was very gifted. So it's really cool. And more than just knowing your past lives, but also being able to read others' thoughts. Can you imagine when we could all do that? And the politician's up there talking to us, and he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to lower taxes," and you're reading his mind. He's saying, "Oh, no, you're not." You know, I'm going to be honest to you. No, you're not. You could just tell. And that's what's happening right now. We've talked about CIA and FBI studies that show that this would be happening in these times, with all the cosmic rays coming in, all the energy changing us, the ability to create doubles of themselves. And that's an interesting one as well that we'll touch on a little bit more. The ability to rise into the air, levitate, and simultaneously shoot fire and water from the body. And these are crazy things. These sound like they're crazy. There's a book written by Swami Rama, Living with the Himalayan Masters, which would be a good one to check out. And I forget who was recommending Swami Rama to me, but thank you. So yeah, some great stuff. And also the ability to change matter into other forms. I've heard of this many times. Turning a rock into a sugar cube. How about Jesus? Water into wine. Well, that's because, he was the Son of God. Yeah, but God lives within all of us, and greater things ye shall do. So, wow, that will change the food situation. Wouldn't that change the food situation with the crop losses?
In a heartbeat.
So, again, they're going to keep us in fear over all this, but we already have the keys. Although it's, unfortunately, in our society, we've been trained to just simply go to the doctor and get a prescription. And that's part of the whole sickness of this sad American diet, and just the whole mindset that we find ourselves in. And so pretty fascinating stuff. Think about all of our legends, and there's a reason that these legends are there. How about, we were talking about water into wine, multiplying fish, in the biblical sense. See, it's not just the Bible. It's in other traditions as well. Even raising the dead, was done by others as well. There have been yogis that have been able to do that, as well as other ones that we've talked about throughout time. Pretty wild stuff. But in the 1980s, Herbert Benson, a Harvard professor of medicine, went to the Himalayan mountains to research the group of monks' ability to raise their temperature. It was revealed that the group uses Tumo. And Tumo is a form of fire breath, as it's called. And many of you guys know Wim Hof. We've talked about him before. He's been so monitored by so many different scientists, and there is no way, they have no explanation for how he could do what he can do. So Tumo is a form of breathing, it's a form of yoga, to raise their temperature up to 17 degrees. That's pretty impressive. And I've shared with you guys, like when I was first getting into meditation, that was part of my routine in the winter, to go and sit out in 20 or 30 degree weather. At first, I'd have a blanket around me. And then once I got into a certain state of mind, I would take the blanket off and try to meditate for about 40 minutes with just boxers. And that was it. And I was able to do it. And I haven't really pursued that so much in the recent future, or the recent, but I will again. And I'll have all these links for you guys. Pretty fascinating stuff. So this is getting into different studies again. There's been so many studies done that they just can't explain all these things. But it's just science that we're not fully understanding at the moment. But I think a lot of people understood it in the past. And I think it's been purposely hidden. Because think about the power that we don't have, that we would have, if we could control our environment, if we could materialize food, and talk to each other telepathically and read others' minds. We would not be able to, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now.
And just think about when you, like, for example, the ability to heat yourself up. I don't know if anyone's ever been in a situation where something happens and suddenly you get flush. some movement, you're embarrassed, you're angry, and you get flush and you feel that flash of heat through your body. They happen to know how to control their brains and how to train themselves to do that. But you see, we all can do it. It's just we all haven't been given the tools to follow the guidance to know how to do it. But, through a lot of meditation and a lot of these things, I believe you can get that flash of heat. Obviously, these guys can get it, on command, and our brains can do that. They're powerful.
Yeah, they're very powerful. So Jeff says, can it be done with heat? Well, yeah, I think we could also cool ourselves off as well. And, think about like Native American sweat lodges and the like. And heat could be used to purge and detox well. But we could definitely control it. It's mastery of the elements. It goes back to the book I shared with you guys before, Franz Barden's Initiation into Hermetics. And he spends a lot of time talking about control of the elements because we can. And Sadie J says, sorry, but this is just not true. You're free to think it is, though. That would put monks as creator god, and that is just not true. See, that's part of the misinfo that keeps the power structure here, thinking that you can't do it. It's just not true. Only God could do it. Well, that keeps us in a limited state of mind. That's the big lie. Yeah. That is the biggest. That's one of the biggest, if not the single biggest lie that we are exposed to. Yeah. Because that limits our minds, that limits our beliefs, that limits our conditioning. It takes all the power away from us.
Well, it's like,
And, that's part of the draconian plan.
It is.
So, Source, the prime creator, the real, God of everything, just basically puts everything into effect. And there's free will. And unfortunately, the free will is well, fortunately and unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword. So there are beings that will take advantage and try to pose as the creator of everything, but they're not the creator of everything. Source, really is all about love, and it's not about any particular dogma. And most definitely is the misunderstanding of Source is one of the biggest problems in the world, and thinking that there's only one right dogma per se. And just limiting our belief system. That's how they control us. That's the number one way they control us, is by limiting our beliefs in ourselves and in each other. Thanks, Grizz.
Oh, thank you so much, Grizz. It says, how about those moms who have super bouts of strength for their children, or the man in Russia who swims in sub-zero waters? We are capable of much. We are. And, to just simply accept somebody saying, well, no, we can't do that, is just simply accepting, some kind of defeat. I mean, why limit yourself? Why hold yourself in that box? Why not, start to wonder? Grizz is right. There are these moms who do superhuman things, and, people can be really incredible, and there's ways to get there. And I'm really glad that the awakening is happening and people are getting curious about our abilities, because it's happening. It's a beautiful thing.
So here we see them actually monitoring monks as they change their temperatures. Some monks were soaked in 3x6 foot sheets in cold water, 49 degrees, placed them over meditators' shoulders. For untrained people, such frigid wrappings would produce uncontrolled shivering. If body temperatures continue to drop under these conditions, death can result, but it wasn't long before steam began rising from the sheets. And I've seen that too. I've also seen some monks actually emit enough heat from their palm that they could light a piece of paper on fire. And, it's just a matter of training. We can do it. This is an ability anybody can develop. It's way harder if you have been soaked in the pharmaceutical, industry, because all these things, that's part of the whole distortion and lie, is so much of the pharmaceutical industry is all about controlling our consciousness, lowering us down into a certain vibration, and also giving us issues later on. with other side effects. Now, this is Paramahamsa Yogananda and Sri Yukteswar, who is his guru. And the man on the left was actually 100 miles away from Yogananda at one point in his life when he was nearing the end of his life. And he actually manifested a physical body in the room with Yogananda. And I know there will be people that don't believe that, but it's not the only case of that. Just to basically tell him to come back, because he was going to get ready to pass. And so Yogananda changed his plans and came back. But Yogananda sensed it even before he manifested. I find that, we have these mental connections, and we can do amazing things. I actually feel like now I'm starting to read Cindy's mind and at many times, and this is Sri Yukteswar in meditation as well. And so their lineage eventually goes back to Babaji, who is one that we've talked about before. Babaji is thought to be a incarnation of Shiva, and no, Shiva is not a demon. These misunderstandings are all part of the draconian reptilian plan, the Illuminati plan to keep us divided. So Babaji is an immortal, or thought to be an immortal, certainly very ancient. That is still, on the planet, and probably still in the Himalayas mountains as well. And then we get into the whole Agartha inner earth thing as well, which is fascinating. So these psychic powers, these amazing powers, and there's so many different ones. There's actually like 25 different ones that's listed. And there's the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which talks about it. There's different things that help. And obviously, mantras, well, maybe not if for anybody that hasn't done them, but mantras are so powerful, so powerful and transformative. And I'll have all these links for you guys again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really are. And like I said, they can make you kind of congruent with your other surroundings, which just kind of sets your sail through life a little bit easier. Things just go by a little bit easier, not so jagged.
There are certain herbs, there are certain things that can help raise our consciousness. There are some natural substances, some of which you might like on a hamburger if you eat hamburgers, like mushrooms, And then we've talked about other people going on ayahuasca trips. That's something that's really seems to be very popular now. It's all about DMT. Mm-hmm. And there are different chemicals in our body that open up different gateways. But really anything can be done without the use of those. It's just a matter of taking more time and patience and more work. But that should be the main focus, is without, in my opinion, and in traditional opinion, it should be without it. And so here we have attaining the 25 superhuman powers that you could gain through practicing yoga and meditation. And there's so much wisdom in the East, so much wisdom.
There is, even down to astrology. Most people just know about Western astrology, but there's also Eastern or Vedic astrology. And what they don't tell you is with Vedic astrology, they count the tilt of the earth in with that, whereas Western astrology starts at 0 degrees. And when you're dealing with calculations and math and light and angles, that 23 degrees matters, so there's a lot that we don't know.
Yeah, most definitely. So exceptional mind-body control, probably what would be recognized as being amazing mind-body control. In some cases, clairvoyance, so the ability to gain knowledge unbound by the ordinary constraints of space-time and without the use of ordinary senses. That includes precognition and telepathy, psychokinesis, or that's mind-matter interaction, the ability of the mind to directly influence matter. And so it says 15 of the superpowers fall into the category of clairvoyance, 4 fit into the category of psychokinesis, 6 in mind-body control. And so they are listed here in the order of which they appear in the Yoga Sutras, which we have a copy of. And when we get out there and we're doing our camping trip that we're trying to get out and do, that's going to be one of the books that I bring along with 4 Yogananda books and probably a couple others as well, including the Vedas. It's just so much in there. Knowledge of previous births and also of arising future births as well. Being able to hear, voices and stuff, which, we do. And Cindy is just amazing with just how she hears things. I mean, she just, it's just, I could just ask her something and she just hears things so clearly. It's, what are you looking like that?
Because, it just brings me back to where they call people names when they say they hear voices.
No, yeah, but I mean, it's the same thing with seeing ghosts, which you do, and I do now more and more often as well. And it's really cool because I could have her verify it. Like, I'll say, "Did you see that?" And she'll say, "You mean the lady walking down the street in the red dress? It looks like she's dressed in 1890s garb." Yeah, she's going to a funeral. Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I thought I saw." Yeah. So, yeah, you're able to read the Akashic records, basically, and we're able to read each other. So, and again, as we talked about, that's going to really put a crimp in the plans of so many of these beings that are running the show right now. Extraordinary strength as well. And Grizz, I brought up, how about the woman that can actually, lift a car off her child? There's ways we could connect to these things too, and it's not just in the East, and that's something I want to get into as well. Now, it does talk about the light body, which is developing in many people now, and which really has been just being developed in very, very few up to this point in time, but now the masses are going to start to, and there's a couple of links I'll give for you guys so you can get into this in more depth. So I remember watching the video on this and wondering if this was real or not. He's levitating off of the ground here. Mm-hmm. And, this is not the only guy that supposedly has been able to do this. And as I was saying, it's not just even from the yogi tradition. Levitation of St. Francis is a typical example. Now, this is from Carl Jung talking in a lecture in 1935. You can see yourself from a foot above, from the ceiling, or from the ground. The yogini himself levitates because he is so identified with his contemplation that he loses the weight of the body. That's Carl Jung saying that. And talking about St. Francis, so there's been a number of Christian saints that have done wild things. And here we have 3 saints who could levitate, bilocate, and bend the laws of nature. So it's not just people in the yogic tradition either.
No, it's not. It's a lot of different traditions. And Aussie Patriot says, and thank you for your support, by the way. Do you think the strange weather in China might be partially generated by a collective anger at the CCP for releasing this virus? It could be some, because I believe that emotions are extremely powerful, and they can create change, and they can create positive change and negative change.
Yeah, I tend to think that what we got, I asked that question to Cindy when she was in trance, and basically what she got was that there are natural things happening that are being amplified through weather warfare. But also, I've noticed that before, that in times of extreme horrible things going on, war, and famines and things like that, the natural disasters seem to be worse. They seem to be worse. If you go into Kings and Chronicles, there's a series of times when the people stray, so to speak, and then all of a sudden calamity comes on them, and then they come back to God, quote unquote, and then everything starts to get good. They have like pestilences when they go down a bad road, and famines and other tribes, other people attacking them. And so it's showing us the law of cause and effect. It's showing us the law of karma. If you start looking at it with a different viewpoint, you can see, again, it's teaching us the law of karma. So when we're throwing negative energy out there, negative things are going to happen, and that's just the way the universe works. And so going back to these, this is really interesting stuff. We have Saint Joseph of Cupertino. His superior ordered him to return to Earth. Saint Joseph of Cupertino is a patron saint of air travelers and pilots because he had the ability to levitate and fly through the air. How fun is that?
Oh, that sounds like a blast.
He was born in 1603 to a desperately poor family who had just lost their home and their sole provider. His mother was a widow at the time of his birth. She also had a quick temper and was prone to angry outbursts. It would be very safe to say that St. Joseph of Cupertino had a miserable childhood. It didn't help that he was a very poor student, and the people of his village considered him retarded. He did have a great love of God and desire to enter religious life as soon as he was old enough. Rejection was swift. At the first two communities he approached, the third, however, accepted him. He was able to complete his studies for the priesthood, and St. Joseph of Cupertino often levitated as he was saying Mass. These flights above the altars were witnessed by many Mass goers. Sometimes he would also fly outside. The gift of levitation in the Catholic Church is generally considered a sign of sanctity. Many other canonized saints were also able to do this. St. Joseph of Cupertino is, however, among the first to come to mind when Catholics think of levitation. He's often depicted hovering above an altar. It has been recorded that this saint would fly dangerously close to candles, with the cloth of his religious habit catching fire. When St. Joseph of Cupertino journeyed with his religious superior to visit Pope Urban, he once again flew in the air and stayed there until his superior ordered him down. Another sign of sanctity for someone in religious life is to obey their superior. There is power in having great passion for God, and again, I view it as it doesn't have to be a denominational God. It doesn't have to be, because there really is one source. There's one source when you get down to it. And people like Yogananda, for instance, just so beautifully devoted to God. And no, he wasn't devoted to a demon, because he didn't believe as some do. That's where we have to open our minds and recognize there are many different roads and paths, but the ultimate path, the only one way, is through love and compassion and wanting to be in that service to others. And you could be in service to self in a sense, in a way that will make you ultimately better able to be in service to others. We have Saint Martin de Porres, and he was a patron of mixed race people. Many other saints also defied gravity, time, and space. Another notable example was Saint Martin de Porres of Lima, Peru. And definitely want to see Peru on the bucket list. He could fly through the air as well as bilocate, another gift given to very holy souls that allows them to be in multiple places at once. And if you are not Catholic and reading this, please understand that many devout Catholics truly believe these miracles happened, and they are highly scrutinized by church authorities. They are outward signs of God working through one of his servants. God exists out of time and space, and sometimes allows humans to do so at the same time. So the difference is that, in the East, in these traditions that we were talking about, and also in the Western mystery tradition, it's believed that God is in every single one of us. We all have the divine in us. And again, how could we do greater things than Jesus if that was not the case? So this was an interesting one as well. And then going on down, St. Francis Xavier could bilocate. And this was a Basque Spanish missionary to India and the Far East. And he was credited with converting countless people to the Catholic faith. He also established a string of churches in India. Part of the reason, no doubt, he was so successful in his evangelization is that he was able to be in multiple places at once. And these bilocations happened very frequently and were seen and documented by many eyewitnesses. So it's really more a matter of your vibration. There again, it has nothing to do with dogma.
No, nothing to do with dogma at all. And I'm curious, when they talk about God and things like this, like what God, to me, I just think of like, okay, what kind of alien could do that? And, and then maybe interbreeding with humans and gave humans these capabilities. And it's all very curious where the truth leads back to. I certainly believe these things. I just think that it's been so many years since this has happened. all of that maybe is bred out of humans, or, we've become too human or something. But I do believe there's like alien intervention here. I think it's pretty cool.
Well, it's again, just how do we label things? The universe is full, the multiverses are full of all different forms of life. There's all different forms of life. There's not just a couple. It's not just humans, singular God, demons, and angels, and that's it. That's a very, very old, antique way of looking at things. There's all different types of beings on all different levels. The universe is teeming with life. And again, I should say the multiverses are teeming with life, because our own universe is just one cell in the body of something else. And that in and of itself is, again, just one single cell in the body of something else. This goes on ad infinitum. So it's just, we've had perhaps not the greatest way of grasping things, but now we're in a time of rapid change and growth, and this is the apocalypse, so everything is being revealed. And this is a interesting little PDF. The International Journal of Medicine Science of Homeopathy, Energetic Medicine, and Naturopathy. It's evidence-based literature to protect and explore natural medicine, and talks about enhancing superhuman powers and looking at it from a scientific aspect, which we are doing more and more and more. A friend that's an energy worker in Chicago has one of those. It's not a Curlin photography machine so much as it just actually shows lifetime your energy. So what she'll do is she'll scan somebody and tell them, okay, I feel that your heart chakra is blocked. I feel your sacral chakra is blocked. And, there's something going on over in your right shoulder. After just, doing a mental scan and feeling the energy of the person, and then she'll turn it on, and actually then they'll be able to see what she just described to them through the energetic feedback with the different colors and stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool machine, and science is going to completely merge with spirituality at some point. And then it's just simply knowledge that's going to be shared and out there for everyone.
It is, and it is going to be common knowledge, and that's going to be a beautiful time when, the awakening does catch on to more people. Right now, it's just us, us little group in the chat room, and we understand and we know that things are not how they appear in the 3D, and we know that there's more because we've experienced more. And if we haven't experienced more, we've sensed that there is more, and that's all it takes.
QiGong masters have been able to do amazing things that just defy modern science, and it's just fascinating. And this gets into neuroscientist Richard Davidson's 2004 study on the energy emitted by Tibetan meditating monks. And there's a link right here too to show you that particular study, and that was at Stanford University. So Davidson tested the Dalai Lama's most advanced monks, each with 15 to 40 years of meditation practice. He measured the gamma waves emitted by their brains with EEG testing and brain scanning. A control group of 10 students with no previous meditation experience was also tested. After a week of training, gamma waves are described as some of the highest frequency and most important electrical brain waves. The production of gamma waves requires thousands of nerve cells to act at extremely high speeds in unison. Davidson found some of the monks produce gamma wave activity more powerful and of higher amplitude than any documented case in history. The movement of the waves was also far better organized than the non-meditating test volunteers. It was also shown that meditation could result in the redistribution of gray matter in the brain and prevent its loss. The loss of gray matter has an impact on many mental functions, such as control of emotions, impulses, thoughts, and movements. This is because the caudate nucleus, which controls these functions and more, is situated within the gray matter. And pretty interesting stuff. QiGong masters emit infrasonic waves 100 to 1,000 times above normal levels. And this was a study in 1998. Professor Liu Yangfan and dozens of American scientists conducted research on QiGong masters in China. QiGong is an ancient practice that involves cultivating energy, not only by doing meditative exercises, but also by improving mind and heart nature, as the mind and body are said to be one, and known to have very strong healing effects. So in her research, she had found that QiGong masters were able to emit powerful bursts of infrasonic waves, 100 to 1,000 times as strong as average individuals. Even after just a few weeks of training, beginners in the practice had 5 times the infrasonic energy they had produced before training. So, I mean, how powerful is that? I mean, that's amazingly powerful stuff. And, QiGong has definitely transformed my life. So, that's been an incredible thing for me. And I first started practicing over 30 years ago. I forget exactly how long now. Time gets away when you get up there. So I wanted to share, I've been working a little bit on making this look a little bit better and a little cleaner. So this is our website, Evolutionary Energy Arts. And, just some of the testimonials with what myself has been able to do before I met Cindy, and then together with Cindy. And, one case here was a lady that had come to some of my QiGong classes and then decided to see me for direct energy work. And she was told that she had to have her thyroid out because it swollen so big that she couldn't swallow anymore. It was getting to the point where she just couldn't swallow. She couldn't really swallow food anymore. She had to just be drinking and making shakes. And so the doctor said it's got to come out. And she had cancer before. She didn't want any more surgery. So I saw her twice a week for an hour each time and ran energy in, just intending to dissolve it. And 6 weeks later, there's no swelling and no more difficulty swallowing. She went back and the doctor said, "Oh my God, who was your surgeon? He did such a good job. I don't see a scar." And she said, "I didn't have it out." And he was like, "What?" So he couldn't believe that. And one of the ones that was very dear to my heart was Veronica, who was hit by a car as a pedestrian in her late 20s, and she had chronic severe pain throughout her body for over 30 years. She goes on as a technical writer and a nutritionist. I spend a lot of time researching for my clients, but I've also spent an enormous amount of time researching for herself. Yeah, she's really gone all through the alternative healthcare and has totally changed her mind from being kind of Western based to being alternative based. And so she investigated the whole things, and then she set up an appointment. And actually, it was when I was doing a free clinic. I was just doing free energy sessions all day for people, and I was doing like a 20-minute session with her. And it affected her so large, to such a degree, she was not able to turn her head to the left for almost 30 years. And after the second time I worked on her, I told her, go to the chiropractor. And she said to me, "I go to a chiropractor twice a week. It doesn't do anything." I said, "Just go." And so he got a release. And that was because the guide told me to tell her to go to the chiropractor. I heard that, it was a message that came through. And she did. And she got this huge release. And then as you could read it for yourself, she actually spit up something, a blob the size of bazooka bubblegum, that was somewhere lodged in her all that time, like scar tissue. And then she could move her head to the left fully. Not only that, but because of being hit by a car as a pedestrian, she was like a half hunchback, and one shoulder was about 5 inches off from the other. One was 5 inches higher than the other. And over the course of the next year, just by running energy, we got it so everything was realigned and she was no longer a hunchback. It was a really good experience to be able to help somebody like that. But what really helped her too was teaching her QiGong, because that just got her to be able to help herself at the same time and to help herself moving forward. The other thing I wanted to share was this yogi, who was twice researched by scientists that watched him. He recently passed away at 90. He was blessed by a goddess, which enabled him to survive without food for decades, actually most of his life. And he was monitored by scientists, which watched him, and they saw that he did not eat, he did not even drink water, he did not go to the bathroom. They monitored his organs. Everything was normal. Everything was fine, actually better than the average person's. And as you see here, they said he did not eat, drink, or go to the toilet, and his only contact with fluid was during gargling and bathing periodically. We still do not know how he survives, said a neurologist. It's a mystery what kind of phenomenon this is. Well, there's others. Again, we could go through quite a few others that have done the same thing. So we don't really know the scope of our abilities.
No, we don't. There's just so much more that we can do. It's incredible what we can do, and the only real way to find it is to really explore.
And so don't accept that we can't achieve amazing things, because we can achieve amazing things, and we're only just starting to scratch the surface. So if we do believe, as it says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. But it's the conditioning, and it's the conditioning that society imposes on us that limits us and limits our perception of what is possible. So I wanted to share all that with you guys, and I hope you guys got something out of this. It was a fun one, and I enjoyed doing it with you guys. So I want to thank you guys, as always, for your support on both Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without you, and thank you also for your support here as well. We definitely love you guys. God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.